950 feet. That's how high a fountain of molten rock stood over Hawaii on the morning of July 15th, taller than almost any building in America, made of liquid fire. The U.S. Geological Survey confirmed it, bumped Kilauea up to a watch alert, and flipped the aviation code to orange. And the part that should stop you cold, this was the 51st time. A year and a half in, the most active volcano on Earth still won't quit. And it's getting worse, not calmer. But the fire isn't even the real story. It's crashed head-on into a viral claim that a chunk of this island is about to break off, slide into the sea, and drown the west coast. By the end of this, you'll know exactly why Kilauea keeps escalating, and which of the fears you've heard are real, and which one is being sold to you. Welcome to the warning desk. Let's get into it. And look, you could have clicked something promising Hawaii sinks into the Pacific by Friday. You clicked the one with an actual agency bulletin in the title instead. That tells me what you came for. The real read, not the fear. Good. That's the whole job here. Let me give you the numbers that matter, because they carry the entire story. 8:30 in the morning, Hawaii time, on July 15th. Lava starts fountaining out of Halemaʻumaʻu. That's the pit crater sitting right at Kilauea's summit. 2 hours later, by 10:30, it hits its peak. Molten rock coming out of that vent at roughly 400 cubic yards a second. In plain terms, enough lava to fill an Olympic swimming pool in about 2 seconds. The fountains reach 950 feet. The plume of gas and ash climbs to 18,000 feet, high enough that the National Weather Service had to flag it for passing aircraft. The Hawaiian Volcano Observatory raised the volcano to a watch alert and turned the aviation color code orange. And the good news, right up front, because it counts. Every vent, every flow, stayed boxed inside Halemaʻumaʻu, deep inside Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. No homes, no towns, not this time. Now, what turns this from a nature clip into a genuine watch item is the exact thing the title is pointing at. This was episode 51, not day 51, episode 51. Because Kilauea isn't having one long eruption. It's having the same eruption again and again and again. It started on December 23rd, 2024. Fountain, stop, refill, fountain again. By this July, it had done that more than 50 separate times. The people who study volcanoes for a living will tell you this is now the most episodic fountaining eruption ever recorded at this summit. More separate repeats than the famous Pu'u'o eruption that ran for decades. And the fire itself has been climbing. The first episodes, back in early 2025, were modest, 100 feet, 160. By the middle of that year, they were breaking 1,000. And on the eruption's one-year anniversary, December 23rd, 2025, episode 39 put up fountains around 1,400 feet. Episode 35 had already touched 1,500, the tallest of the whole series. That's higher than the Empire State Building made of liquid rock. I want to be straight with you about that word worse, because it's the honest part. These fountains don't climb in a perfectly straight line. 35 out-fountained 39, and some episodes come in short. So it's not that every burst beats the last one. It's that a year and a half in, this thing shows no sign of ending. The peaks keep reaching skyscraper height, and as you'll see in a few minutes, the danger that actually matters gets a little heavier every month it keeps running. When the headline says it's only getting worse, that's not a writer reaching for drama. That's the measured, literal behavior of the busiest volcano on the planet, stuck on repeat. Real quick, before we go deeper, before this video, did you even know Hawaii had been erupting non-stop for a year and a half? Yes or no in the comments. I honestly want to see how far under the radar this one has flown. Because the fountains, wild as they look, aren't the part that should worry you most. To understand why nobody in Hawaii treats this casually, even with the lava behaving itself inside a park, you have to know what this volcano does when its mood turns, and it turns fast. Most active volcano on Earth isn't a slogan. Before this eruption, Kilauea ran an eruption called Pu'u'o for 35 years, 1983 to 2018. For most of that stretch, it was slow, almost gentle, feeding lava quietly toward the sea, far from anyone's front door. People got used to it. It turned into scenery. And then, in the spring of 2018, it turned on them. Over a few days that May, the floor of the Pu'u'o crater collapsed. The magma that had fed it for 35 years didn't just switch off, it drained underground and forced its way east, down a buried line of weakness called the Lower East Rift Zone, straight under a neighborhood. A subdivision named Leilani Estates. The ground split open in people's yards. 24 fissures tore across the area, throwing lava, and then rivers of it began moving through the streets. By the time it stopped, that eruption had destroyed more than 700 homes and structures, buried around 30 miles of road, and paved over more than 8,700 acres. Whole communities, Kapoho, Vacation Land, Lanipuna Gardens, gone. Wiped off the map. The most destructive eruption in Hawaii in 2 centuries. People who'd spent their whole lives beside this mountain watched it swallow their streets in a single summer. That's the volcano we're talking about. Right now, in July 2026, it's confined to the crater. And that genuinely matters. This is the calm Kīlauea. But 2018 is the reason that word confined is carrying so much weight. It's why every one of these 51 episodes gets watched the way it does, because this mountain has already shown us, within living memory, how fast the polite version ends. So why won't it stop? Why 51 episodes instead of one eruption that burns out and dies? It comes down to pressure, and once you see the rhythm, the whole thing clicks. Picture a tank of magma sitting not far under Kilauea's summit, getting topped up from much deeper inside the earth. Between episodes, fresh magma rises into the tank, and as it fills, the whole summit swells. It inflates. The ground tilts outward a little more each day, and the instruments rate it live. This goes on for 1 to 4 weeks. Pressure climbs. Then, usually with a little ooze of lava a day or two beforehand, like a warning cough, the pressure wins, and the volcano fountains. 6 to 12 violent hours of rock in the sky, and the instant it lets go, the summit deflates. The tank drops just enough to bleed the pressure off, the fountain dies, and the mountain goes quiet. Then the filling starts over. Load, vent, drop, reset. There's a smaller engine running inside each episode too, and the scientists gave it a perfect name, the gas piston. Plain version, think of a soda bottle somebody shook. Gas builds up trapped under the surface with nowhere to go until it shoves the whole thing up and out in a burst. Then the level falls back. Inside the vent, gas collects in a frothy layer under a lid of thick, sticky lava. It pushes the surface up until it spills and spatters, dumps the gas all at once, and drains back down. Up, burst, down. A piston, run on gas. And here's the part I find genuinely remarkable. This pressure cycle is so regular that the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory now reads it like a gauge. By tracking how far the summit has inflated and how fast it's tilting, they can forecast, days ahead, roughly, when the next episode will fire. Episode 51 was flagged for a mid-July window before it ever blew. That's how metronomic this has become. The volcano isn't lurking, it's announcing itself. And right now, as you watch this, the summit is already reloading toward episode 52. The pressure always comes back. Quick aside, more of you have written in about volcanoes this past month than in the whole rest of the year. Something about the ground itself moving gets under all our skin. Anyway, back to it, because this next part is where the internet lost the plot. There's a claim about Kīlauea that's taken over comment sections, and it deserves a straight answer, because the real science underneath it is fascinating, and the viral version gets it badly wrong. Here's the claim you've probably seen. On the south flank of Kilauea sits a giant slab of the volcano's own side, roughly the size of Manhattan, slowly sliding toward the ocean. It has a name, the Leilani Slump. The viral version says that slab is about to snap off all at once, crash into the Pacific, and hurl up a mega-tsunami, a wall of water over 100 feet tall, 500 miles an hour, racing across the ocean to drown California. And it almost always comes with a kicker. The USGS knows, and they're hiding it, and the media has been told to stay quiet. I know what you're thinking, because I thought it too the first time. But I've seen the clips, the wave, the animation. It looks real. I've seen them too, so let me be fair to it before I take it apart. Because the kernel actually is real, and I want to be honest with you about that. The Leilani slump isn't invented. It's a genuine feature. One of the most studied unstable flanks on the planet. It really is creeping seaward a few centimeters a year, nudged by the volcano and jolted by big earthquakes. And Hawaii's deep past really does hold giant flank collapses. The seafloor around these islands is littered with the rubble of enormous chunks that broke loose and slid into the Pacific over hundreds of thousands of years. So the instinct under the fear, a piece of a volcano failing, moving a wall of water, isn't crazy. It's pointing at something that has physically happened. That's exactly why the claim spreads. It braids a real feature and a real ancient process into something that sounds not just possible, but imminent. But now, listen to the people who actually study this thing. A geologist at Brigham Young University, Hawaii, put the odds of a sudden break-off-all-at-once failure of the Leilani slump at, his words, almost non-existent. Not over the next 100 years, the next 100,000. The geologist and science writer Mika McKinnon said it plainer still. Submarine landslides in Hawaii do make tsunamis, but small local ones that wash a nearby shore, not ocean-crossing walls that reach the mainland. And recent seafloor surveys turned up something quietly reassuring. A broad underwater bench has built up at the foot of the slump, acting like a buttress. A doorstop, bracing the slab in place, making a sudden collapse less likely, not more. National Geographic ran the flat headline, "No, Hawaii's volcano will not trigger a mega-tsunami." That leaves the cover-up. And the tell? The same tell every single time. The claim says the USGS is hiding the Leilani slump, but the Leilani slump has its own Wikipedia page, published USGS papers with its name in the title, decades of open seafloor maps. You can hear about it right now in this video, precisely because none of it is hidden. A real cover-up doesn't come with a reading list. The moment a scary story tells you they're concealing the very thing you're reading about in detail, that's not a secret. That's a story that needs the secrecy because it can't survive the actual data. The honest verdict is the one that keeps surfacing with this volcano. The mega-tsunami headline takes a real feature and a real process and cranks the dial way past the evidence. It is very likely the single least likely thing Kilauea will ever do to you. If you've come this far, do me one small thing. Type the word confirmed in the comments. One word. It tells me this reached someone who wanted the bulletin instead of the boogeyman. Now, if it isn't the tsunami, what should you actually be watching? Because there are real hazards here. 3 of them. And notice, not one of them makes a headline as good as a wall of water, which is exactly why you hear about them less. The first is happening right now and it's nearly invisible. VOG, volcanic smog. Every one of these fountaining episodes pumps a huge amount of sulfur dioxide gas into the air. Downwind, that gas reacts and turns into a haze that settles over towns. And at high enough levels, it's a genuine respiratory problem. Kids, the elderly, anyone with asthma or a heart condition. During this eruption, thin, glassy strands of volcanic rock, they call it Pele's hair, have drifted down on the town of Pahala in the Kau district, as the wind steers the gas toward the Kau and Kona side of the island. And what most people miss? The gas can stay dangerous locally even between episodes, even when there's no fountain to film. The fire is what gets the camera. The gas is what reaches lungs. That's the piece that quietly gets worse the longer this runs. The second is a ghost from exactly 100 years ago, and it's the one scenario the scientists themselves keep flagging. Go back to 1924. That February, the summit lava lake drained away, followed by a nasty earthquake swarmed down in lower Puna, and the lava level dropped below the water table. The groundwater sitting inside the mountain, right now about 1,600 feet beneath the caldera floor. When the lava column falls below that water, groundwater meets superheated rock, flashes to steam, and the pressure detonates. Rock falls off the crumbling walls, dammed the rising steam. The pressure built, and it blew. May 1924. Halemaʻumaʻu, the exact crater fountaining today, threw more than 50 explosive steam blasts over 2.5 weeks. It hurled blocks of rock weighing up to 14 tons as far as a kilometer. One of them came down on a man named Truman Taylor, who'd gone out to the rim to photograph it. He was the only person killed. He never left. Those are still the most powerful explosions here in modern history. And this isn't just a history lesson because the USGS and outside volcanologists have said it out loud. Those steam blasts may return. Kilauea's future could echo that part of its past. That, not a tsunami, is the real low-odds, high-cost scenario worth respecting. The third is the simplest, and it's human. These episodes start fast, sometimes a day or two of warning, and all of it unfolds inside a national park that draws thousands of visitors a day. Most of them wanting nothing more than to stand at the rim and watch the most active volcano on Earth do its thing. So, where does this leave us? Kilauea keeps getting worse, not because it's building toward one final blast, but because it isn't building toward anything. It's a pressure system that reloads. Fill, vent, drop, reset, over and over, with no off switch as long as the magma keeps rising. And the longer it runs, the more the quiet costs stack up. The VOG and more lungs, the odds slowly compounding on that 100-year-old steam scenario. The mega-tsunami you got sold is the least likely thing on the whole list. The haze already sitting over Kau, and that steam explosion ghost down in the water table, those are the ones that quietly earn your respect. So, watch the right things. Watch the observatory's inflation and deflation numbers. That's what calls episode 52 before it lands. Watch the VOG advisories for Kau and Kona, and watch the one number that would actually rewrite this story. The lava level at the summit against the water table beneath it. Because the day the pressure finds the water instead of the sky is the day this stops being a spectacle and turns into something else. There's no newsroom behind this. It's one person reading the same bulletins the scientists post and handing you the honest version instead of the scary one. If that's the deal you want, subscribe, and I'll keep showing up with it. We'll be tracking Kilauea closely as it develops.